Hello, and welcome to this fifth unit of the second section. This fifth unit is oriented towards the study of cultural ecosystem services. So if you remember the roadmap, natural capital as a stock provides ecosystem services, which are flows, as benefits to the people. And then cultural ecosystem services is the third of the categories we were talking about, the third of the categories of the sizes classification, the shortest one as well. So let me take some extra time to start with to explain precisely the structure of the sizes classification. It's not the structure of the cultural ecosystem services, it's the structure of the whole sizes classification. But now that we are more and more familiar with ecosystem services, it might be the time to know more about this classification. It has four different levels. Sections, which of course we know there are three: provisioning, regulation and maintenance, and cultural. But each of the sections has different divisions. Each of the divisions has different groups, and each of the groups has different classes, which are the final ecosystem services we've been talking about in this section. So take, for instance, the provisioning service from wild plants. Here you have a very short part of the structure to give you a flavor of what the classification is like. Another example in the regulation realm, with the section, division, group and class. And another example in the cultural realm, physical and experiential interactions. We will be talking about this in a few seconds. But here you see the different classes that are now in this group of physical and experiential interaction, belonging to a certain division, belonging of course to the section of cultural ecosystem services. So there are, as you know, 90 different classes. If you are interested in knowing more about this classification, you can download it from the internet. You just browse sizes and you will find it. Now let's go to our task. Let's focus on the cultural ecosystem services. Just 12 biotic cultural ecosystem services in the sizes classification, but very important and very familiar to us, you'll see. Starting with the physical and experiential interactions we have when, for instance, we practice sports, we practice ski, we practice rafting, when we go hiking. Those are cases of physical and experiential interaction in which nature provides us with a very valuable cultural service. But not all interactions are physical or experiential. We also have passive and observational interactions. For instance, when we go bird watching, for instance, this is a passive interaction, very important as well, very valuable for us. How about the scientific investigation, the opportunities that nature provides us with to analyze, to know more about the world surrounding us, and of course the traditional knowledge that some communities have been storing for centuries. This is another service from nature. Education, training, nature provides us with all that. That's a different cultural ecosystem service. There are some other services which are linked to culture and heritage. There are many places for which life has been molded, has been heavily influenced by the presence of some species, for instance the wolf in some places of Spain, but I'm sure that you all will find examples near to your places that even have changed or have created the name for some locations, like that Lobeznos in Spain, coming from the word lobo, which is wolf, of course. Then, of course, we all know about the symbolic meaning of nature. This is a very common example, which is the leaf of a maple tree as a symbol of the flag of Canada. The spiritual or religious meaning is also a source of cultural ecosystem services. This is a picture of a place called Rocío in the southwestern part of Spain. Is a very traditional place. It's a traditional for pilgrimage at least once a year, and it's surrounded by nature, surrounded by flamingos, as you see, by rivers, and the usual pilgrimage is made, by the way, on horse. So it's a natural experience all around. And of course, we cannot forget not just the interaction, physical or visual, but the value that we put on nature because of the existence of some environmental assets, natural assets. What about Amazonia? We value Amazonia even though we might not be willing to go there. We are not planning to do it. And of course, I guess we all like the panda bear. So this is a symbolic species. So the way in which we put a value on that is not because of our use, which is something we will be exploring in section 4. It's because we like its very same existence. That's it. So take into account, you could do this natural experiment. Think about the environment surrounding you and think whether you would be happier by knowing that that environment exists, or thinking the opposite way. Would you be willing to pay 1 cent a year to keep the existence of some of the environmental assets surrounding you? Of course, this is like a silly natural experiment. If 1 cent is not enough, which will not be, try to increase that amount and you will see that the natural environment surrounding you is valuable to you, not only because you use it, but also because it exists for you. And that's a cultural ecosystem services, certainly.